Hello friends. A man named Garikai Chengu says that Africans came to America before Columbus. Now I will read his article to you. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment. Before Columbus, how Africans civilized America. Garikai Chengu, Global Research. On October 12th, government offices, businesses, and banks across America stopped work to celebrate Columbus Day. In schools across the country, children are taught that the brave Italian explorer discovered America in 1492, and various events and parades are held in connection with this. However, it is now known in the scientific world that Christopher Columbus did not discover America, because it is impossible to discover a continent full of people and cultures already inhabited. The question arises, how did Columbus discover America if the local inhabitants were already standing on the shore when he arrived? Contrary to popular belief, Afro-American history did not begin with slavery in the New World. Recent research proves that people from Africa reached America thousands of years ago, even before Columbus and the prophet Jesus. Ancient Egyptian and West African civilizations came to America and contributed greatly to the development of early American civilization by bringing pyramid building skills, political systems, religious traditions, mathematics, writing, and complex calendars. One of the strongest proofs of Africans' presence in America before Columbus is Columbus's own journal. Harvard University's famous historian and linguist Leo Wiener, in his 1920 book Africa and the Discovery of America, writes that Columbus recorded local American reports saying, "Black people came by boat from the southeast, trading gold trinkets with spears." One example of Africans arriving in America is the journey of Black Egyptians during the 19th dynasty of Egypt, under the leadership of Pharaoh Ramses III in 1292 BCE. Greek historian Herodotus wrote in 445 BCE that ancient Egyptians were skilled sailors and navigators. Egyptian artifacts have been widely found in North America, from Algonquin writings along the Atlantic coast to Egyptian names and objects in the Grand Canyon. This was mentioned by Dr. Imhotep, but Eurocentric archaeologists ignore it. In 1311 CE, Mansa Abubakari Taku of the Mali Empire launched the second large expedition to the New World. This empire was larger than the Holy Roman Empire at the time. The king sent 200 cargo ships and 200 trade vessels carrying agricultural products, livestock, clothing, and African knowledge, astronomy, religion, arts. Some may find it hard to believe that Africans crossed the Atlantic Ocean on simple boats. But many successful experiments today have shown that ancient African boats without oars, sails, or rudders, such as dugout canoes, could cross the ocean in just a few weeks. Over time, we have moved away from the era of European colonialism and begun to discard racially biased historical views. As a result, historians are starting to recognize that Africans were experienced sailors long before Europeans. However, some Western historians still deny this truth. They consciously or unconsciously hold on to the 19th century outdated view that sailing was an exclusively European achievement, because history teaches us that sailing is a European source of pride and the means by which they conquered the world. Acknowledging that Black Africans crossed the Atlantic and reached America before Europeans threatens to undermine European dominance at sea. When many people think of ancient Mexico, they first recall the Incas, Aztecs, and Mayas. But in the 1940s, archaeologists discovered the Olmec civilization, which lived around 1200 BCE, earlier than all previous civilizations. The Olmec civilization is of African origin and was the first major civilization dominated by Africans in Mesoamerica, called the Mother Culture of Mexico. The most famous legacy of the Olmecs is the giant carved stone heads found in central Mexico. These sculptures are clear evidence of African Negroid features. African historian Professor Ivan van Sertima demonstrated that the Olmecs were the first to use writing systems, astronomy, art, mathematics, and to build the first cities. All of this influenced later Maya and Aztec civilizations. Mexican historian Michael Coe wrote, "The roots of all later civilizations in Central America lie in Olmec culture. Africans made a huge contribution to the development of the Olmec civilization. This influence coincided with the flourishing of ancient Black Egyptian culture, another reliable proof that Africans crossed to America before Columbus is the discovery of American drugs in ancient Egyptian mummies. German toxicologist Svetlana Balabanova found cocaine and nicotine, plants that grow only in America, in ancient Egyptian mummies. These substances could only have reached Africa through trade. Similarities between ancient religions in Africa and America also show mutual contact. The Maya, Aztec, and Inca peoples worshipped black-skinned gods. Other statues and images prove this as well, such as the god Quetzalcoatl and the war god Ekahau, who clearly have African features, dark skin, and curly hair. If they had never seen such figures, why would they revere them? Cave paintings in Mexico depict Egyptian opening of the mouth and pouring rituals. Such religious similarities cannot be accidental. Professor Everett Borders highlights another important point proving African involvement, the construction of ancient pyramids in America. In Egypt, pyramids developed and improved in stepped stages, but in Levante, Mexico, the Olmecs built a complex pyramid all at once, without any apparent developmental stages. Both Olmec and Egyptian pyramids are oriented north-south and have similar construction. They serve two functions, tomb and temple. Not only plants, religion, and pyramid building, but also writing systems, astronomy, art, and living creatures in early America show the extent of African influence. Africans have traveled the world and spread culture since ancient times. They never started wars for conquest. The main obstacle to Africa's bright future is ignorance of its own past. Pre-Columbian American civilization was built on the foundations laid by Africans and developed further by indigenous peoples. Unfortunately, post-Columbus America was built on the extermination of indigenous peoples, the enslavement of Africans, and the exploitation of internal and external laborers. Africans led America to civilization long before Europeans arrived. This is the truth before the myth that Europe civilized Africa. Today there is overwhelming evidence and ignoring it is impossible. Now the education system must recognize this truth and revise curricula accordingly.